episode 1131. It is also Tuesday, hashtag Giving Tuesday, and the day of the week that we dedicate the show to Shawls for Sharing, my charity initiative where I dedicate the sales of one special pattern every quarter, and we do a make-along for the whole quarter to make that shawl. And we talk about different ways to give back in our communities, different ways, different types of charities to donate to. Anything we want to talk about being kinder and more giving in our communities, it all works, and we've had so much fun doing this for several quarters now. And like I've promised in the past, we alternate between a knit shawl and a crochet shawl every quarter, which means now that we did the Alicia shawl last quarter, let me move my keys, it's time for a crochet shawl. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll be talking about the new pattern today and a couple of things about it. But in the meantime, if you're joining me live, please say hello. Let me know if you're crafting this morning. Let me know if you have questions for me. Hi, Joan, Judy W, Judy G, Carrie, Joe, Chris, Val, Steffi, Judy K, Sharon, Angela, Donna. I think I got everybody so far. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. And if you're just joining in now, please say hello. Happy New Year, everyone. Hi, Donna, Donna T, Tammy. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Hopefully you're having a great day so far. Hi, Diane and Floretta. Good morning. All right, so as promised, this quarter's shawl is going to be crochet, and allow me to introduce you to the brand new Shawls for Sharing pattern, and that is the Tranquil Tiles crochet shawl pattern. Isn't this beautiful? It's a combination of square and triangle motifs, all in the same pattern, but some done in rows for a triangle and some done in rounds for a square. Yes, we have baby Bjorn as our special guest today. Hi, sweetheart. You staying or you going? You want to come sit down here? Why don't you get out of, let's see. You're right in the middle of the camera. Why don't you come sit with me for a minute while you're deciding what you want to do? Oh, baby Bjorn. Oopsie. Let's start that over again. Hi, Chris. And of course he's gonna stay now, right? Of course you're gonna stay. All right. You definitely make it interesting, baby Bjorn, that's for sure. All right, let's get our tripod, or not a tripod, our board back up. And we are gonna use the board today, that's why I have it out. But it also works as a great little tool for showing the shawl, especially since it's white. I thought the contrast with the white background was really good for you to be able to see the stitch definition in these motifs. And now it goes back. All right, well, you're gonna get a banky then. I'm gonna put this over you so everybody can see the shawl. Oh, sweetheart, okay. All right, move the coffee. Move this to this side then. You know, animals are the best part of live stream, I think, because they are the most unpredictable part of what's going to happen here. And that's why I've always thought it was the fun part of the beach, which hopefully we can get back there at some point soon. And also the fun part of having Bjorn here is that you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, he wants attention now. Hi, Leslie. Good morning. Okay, so... Does anybody have any questions to start with? Thank you to Judy for sharing the link to the pattern so you can purchase the pattern for the Tranquil Tiles crochet shawl pattern. And in that pattern, you're going to get charts and written instructions to do both the triangular motifs and the square motifs. Once we're done looking at this one here, I will use the board to show you the construction style today. And I was going to talk to you about the yarn that I used. So I chose Hobie yarns for this quarter's yarn, and I've done 2 samples of the shawl. I'm trying to decide if I should show you both today or not, because I want to share something new and different about the pattern every Tuesday for the whole quarter, but I guess it doesn't mean we can't do it again. Anyway, this is a 1 ball project. As big as this shawl is, oh boy, we've got He definitely wants attention. So this is a one ball project in the Mega Ball Aran yarn in Hobie Yarns. Judy has just shared a link to it, and this color that I used is called Cornflower. I also did a second sample of it in the Malaga color pack. Remember the 5-color worsted weight yarn that I did the poncho in, the new Cerisa poncho, like Swancho poncho, those 5 colors of blue. Well, let me grab it first, because then I think you're going to really appreciate the contrast between using the colors in different ways too. So this was a pattern that I released last week, I want to say. Maybe you've gotten it already, maybe you've started on it, maybe you didn't see it because you were busy. Anyway, this is that new pattern, and this uses one of the color combinations of the Malaga color pack, which you can also get on Hobie Yarn's website. They had lots of great color combinations there. And so I took those colors and applied them to these motifs. This is a 5-round motif for the squares and a 5-row motif for the triangles. And so I thought 5, 5, 5, 5 colors, 5 rounds. That might be really cool to do it in colors. So this shawl is done in one color, and it's a one-ball project in the Mega Ball Aran. But in the Malaga color pack, you can use all 5 colors and get this. So what I did was I alternated the sequence every other row of motifs. And we'll talk about this again when I pull up when we work on the board today. So I did colors light to dark on this row of triangles, then dark to light on this row of squares, then in the following row it's light to dark again. See how it's going to alternate light to dark and then dark to light? And you could do it in a different combination. I also thought it was fun to show you this because it's a lot easier for you to see that it's triangles up here and then squares further in. Isn't that amazing though? Yes, unfortunately, Judy, you are right. To do something like this does require a lot of tails. But you know, that's the plus and minus to any choices that we make. There's usually pluses and there's usually minuses to every decision that we make. Yes, this one was done in one ball of yarn, but you still had to cut the yarn for each motif, so it's 2 ends per square. But in this one, it would be 10 tails to weave in because it's 5 colors in each motif. So yes, a lot more ends to weave in. However, it's really stunning. And once you do it, it's done, sort of thing. And I just think it's amazing. I think either one is really amazing. So if you decide, so you could do it in one or the other of those. Also, excuse me, also you don't have to do it in that weight yarn either. What do I do with my pans now? So because it's motifs, if you end up making them smaller or bigger, you could do a thicker yarn and make less squares. You could do a thinner yarn and do more squares. You can decide how many, what weight yarn you want to use. So if you wanted to do it in fingering weight or sport weight yarn and a smaller crochet hook, your squares will just be smaller. But then you just join them together. It's the same concept either way. So let me show you the construction style. It's a super, super easy construction style too. You know how sometimes when you do motif projects, you'll be told, okay, this square is a one-sided join, this square is a two-sided join, and this square is a three-sided join. Sometimes the construction, when you have to do something differently for the same squares, that gets complicated to some people, and so I designed this one so there's only one way of doing it. And the way I did that was starting along the top and doing the triangles first. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many you need depending on your gauge and your weight of yarn. You can follow my pattern specifically, but it doesn't matter. What you would do is make your triangle, your first triangle, then when you make your second triangle, you join it right at the corner to the one prior before you fasten off. Then when you make your third triangle, you would join it at the corner just before fastening off, and then so on and so forth. You would join them to the previous one as you go. So then you would stop making triangles when your shawl is as wide as you want it to be, right? Okay. Then when you start making the squares, they're always going to be a two-sided join, because when you make this square, it's going to join on this side and this side. Then when you make this square, it's going to join on this side and this side. And when you make this square, it's going to join on this side and this side. Okay? And then when you come to the next row of squares, you're going to make a square here, and you're going to join it on this side and this side, and make a square here, and join it on this side and this side. And then you would keep going, and each row of squares will have one less square than the previous row of squares. So it's just naturally doing that triangular decreasing shape then too. So now I wanted to show you where you would change your color sequence. So we'll bring out a couple of colors here. Yeah, I agree, Chris. Weaving in ends doesn't bother me as much as it used to years ago. I'm much more, I don't fight it anymore. I just put something on. I put on a TV show, a movie, put on a class that I'm taking, something, and just, it's mindless work that I can focus my mind somewhere else, and I just get it done. So it doesn't bother me at all anymore. Craze Vintage Model. I did show something the other day where I'm deciding to leave my ends as fringe, but I designed that project specifically in mind by making sure that everything joined and fastened off on the same side so that it could be turned into fringe. But we'll talk about that another day. So remember when I was showing you this one and I said the way the color sequence changes in each row of motifs in order to get that extra variation? Now you could do all your motifs in the same color sequence as well. So it could all be light to dark, like this one and this one. You don't have to alternate with the, but if you did want to alternate to give that extra level of variation, I'm gonna do a mark these with blue, meaning that these would be, that would be a row of motifs up there, right? We'll go around the numbers though. Okay, so then this next row of motifs would be in the different color sequence. Maybe you're going to use 10 colors of yarn. Maybe you're going to make this a stash buster. You would do the first 5 colors along that row as well, and then you would do your second row of colors here. And then your next row of colors, you'd go back to the first combination here. Are you watching too? Are you paying attention? Oh, are you learning today? Who's a smart kitty? Yeah, it's a smart kitty. Okay. So let's see if everybody understands what I'm saying here. So we're still doing rows of motifs. Does that make sense? So with the ones across the top, and they all change, and it changes by 1 number each time. So whether this first row is 10, 15, or 4 like this, the next row will always be 1 less motif than, and then so on. So it went from 4, 3, 2, and 1 here. But it could be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. Yes, you could do each motif. You could do solid colored motifs like this and do each motif a different color. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be all one color either. It could be each square is done in one color. And then you wouldn't be adding more ends like this, because each of these squares already has 2 ends to weave in. So you could do each square a different color. So let's draw that out too and see, make sure that that makes sense. So we'll start with, and then you could make a pattern out of the color too, right? So let's do, we'll make it the same size. What the heck? Okay, my squares got pretty ugly on that side, but I think we still get, well, maybe I could clean them up. The problem is that I'm drawing on a really weird angle and I can't see what I'm doing. I see better on camera than I see in real life. Okay, for that. Okay, so let's say you want to do each square a solid color, but a different color. You could alternate with two colors, right? You could do blue, pink, right? But what happens when you do that, sometimes it gets confusing too, so we did, let's say we did blue, pink across the top. What are we going to do in this square here? It doesn't work then. See what I'm saying? You'd have to touch the blue or the pink, but if you add a third color in, that's when you can alternate and still make a pattern out of the colors. You don't have to do that either. You could make it random. You could make this a temperature project as well, or you could make it a random project like pulling straws. You could randomly pull the color. It doesn't matter. But if you wanted it to be a pattern for the color, this now can be a pattern for the color. Actually, we're going to need to add a fourth color in. Is that a fourth? Oh, we could just do the purple. That's fine. And it could be more colors than 4 colors too. And notice how this ends up being rows of the pattern then too. Let's see if, I think, which way would blue go then? Yeah, blue could go here. It doesn't matter. You could start with blue or pink, but we're going to start with blue. This is number 4 worsted weight yarn, to answer Lori's question. You're still enjoying this, aren't you, sugar? Yeah. Okay. So does that make sense? You could make a pattern out of the solid squares too, or you could do the whole thing randomly and just make sure the colors don't touch. I think either of these color options would work really well with the Mega Ball or with the Malaga color packs, because they come in 5 colors that work really well together. Some of them are in tonal shades like this, and some of them are more high contrast, like a few different types of rainbow spectrum. Those would be fun as well. Oh, that's great, Lori. Okay, so let's say you want to make smaller squares. Let me show a quick demonstration of that too. Might have to turn this around. Let's see, we still have some stuff on the board from last time. That's okay, we can go right over it. So can you see if I, okay. So let's say you want to make it in thinner yarn, which means your squares and your triangles are going to be thinner. So you may have a lot more of them. Okay. All right, so we started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Started with 10 triangles along the top. So in the next row of squares, it'll be 9 squares. Then in the next row, it'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next row will be 8 squares. And then the next row of motifs will be 7. Then 6. Then 5. Then 4. Then 3. This is a terrible drawing, but hopefully you still get it. And then 1. So you would still make the same shawl, but you would take more motifs. If your motifs are smaller with thinner yarn, you'll need more of them. But again, join your triangles along that top row until you have the width that you want, and then you're just going to fill in your squares 1 row at a time until you get to the bottom of having only 1 square left. Does that make sense? Thanks, Marilla. Thanks, Sunshine. Thank you. Okay, so then I ended up doing a really simple edging at the bottom here. See that edging down there? And I went with a simple edging because I wanted to make this a one ball project, and it's already a very large, generously sized shawl for a one ball project and the mega ball of ran, and I just didn't want to dip into a second ball of yarn to do the edging. However, if you would like to dip into more yarn to do the edging, I think any of my fringe edgings, any of the chain fringe or floral fringe edgings in my new book, Crochet Power 2, 100 Edgings, would be gorgeous on this shawl. However, they take more yarn, and to do this size and can keep it a one ball project, I wanted to keep the edging simple to not go over on the yardage. However, that's because I wanted to offer a one ball project for this shawl. Having said that though, I think you have a ton of options and you can decide what type of edging. And on another video, in another week, we can go over figuring out the number of stitches and which multiples would work and when you can fudge it and when you can't. So that we're going to talk about a lot of different things with this pattern in this quarter. So every Tuesday we'll do some other form of crocheting and stitching, tips and tricks and different ways to deconstruct this pattern and use it for other things. So these squares and these triangles could be used to make all sorts of other things too, right? You can make any fabric with motifs. So we could talk about making a baby blanket, a full-size Afghan, different ways to add color work, making a poncho, making a beach cover-up, making a top, a dress, a cardigan. We could do something with V-neck shaping. Hello, sweetheart. You know you're right in the middle of the camera. Yeah, you're right in the middle. I guess I could scoot over. I could scoot over a little bit today. There, how's that? Oh, it's a baby. Yeah, it's the sweet baby. You show Mama your belly. We can make bags. We could make scarves. We could make rectangular shawls. We could make a ruana. See what I'm saying? Like when you're making a fabric out of squares, you can make any fabric you want to make. And depending on your gauge, we'll figure out how many different squares you'd need to do any of those configurations. So it'll be helpful to have this board around and we can do a bunch of that. And so as you're thinking about this project during the week before we meet again on Tuesdays, if you have more questions or would like to see me demonstrate it in the squares in other ways, come back to the video and leave a comment. I'll get notified and I'll make sure that I add that content to one of the following episodes. Does that make sense? Because I think it's going to be really fun to make sure that everybody understands that a pattern is just a starting place, and you can deconstruct a pattern and make it your and customize it to do anything else with it as well. Oof. You know you're getting anyway. Having a hard time crossing my legs today. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm stiff or my belly's too big. Uh-oh, baby Bjorn. Speaking, oh, I don't know if I should talk about that today. You think the asymmetrical shape of squares is cool. Oh, meaning twisting them on the diamond. So that's a great point that you mentioned, Sunshine, because you don't have to line them up this way in the diamond formation. You could use these squares and make a fabric that is truly just squares too. You could skip the triangles altogether and do this. They could be joined like that instead, right? And then that opens up a whole other design aesthetic to do any of those shapes we've just talked about. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes, it would make a beautiful bedspread. We can talk about beads too, and where we would place the beads within the stitch pattern, because it is important to figure out where you're going to put beads before you just start adding them. Because if you end up adding them at the top of a stitch that's going to be stitched into on the following round, you can bury your beads and not see them. So we'll talk about that as well. Hi, Irene. Yeah, baby Bjorn loves everybody, right, Tammy? Glad to have you back, Irene. Does anybody have any other questions? You have questions? Somebody's not camera shy this morning. That's a baby. That's a baby. Has anybody started the shawl yet? I guess that's another good question too. Has anybody else started yet? You know, come back and once you start, let me know what color you're using. Let me know what yarn you're using. Uh, you can tag me in social media if you want to share that you're working on the project. I go by my name on all social media. You can share your progress in the forums on my website. And when you're finished with your shawl, make sure to share it with me on my website where you can submit your project and I can share it with the world then too. Miss Muffet, yes, you could do that as well. So if you were going to do a rectangular shape, not a triangular shape, and keep the squares in diamond formation, not in square formation, you would do this. You'd have triangles along the top, the bottom, you'd have triangles along the top and the bottom, and then it would be, and the sides, and then it would be squares in the center. I can't believe I pulled that one off. I did not think I was going to be able to do that. Can you see that one okay on the camera? It seems like it's pretty far away for you now. Can you see that better here? So you could do, if you did just squares, you could make a rectangular fabric like that, and then just make it as wide and as tall as you want. Or you could do squares. I think it'd be easier to do the squares first on this one, and then smooth out your edges by adding triangles where you need them. Because if you did the perimeter first, then you'd have to join the squares on all four sides, and that gets a little complicated. But we can talk about this more in the coming weeks as well. Am I feeling okay? I don't know. Do I not seem like I'm feeling okay? Just tired. Cray's vintage model is knitting fingerless gloves. Cool. Wait and see if there's any other questions. Will there be video for this shawl? Yes, I will do some supplemental tutorial videos for the shawl as well. Yes, I will. I'll show you how to do the triangle and join it to the other triangles, and then I will show you how to add the square. So we'll start with triangles and then we'll add the squares with two-sided join. And we'll continue to talk about all these different variations every week. Oh, that sounds nice, Lori. She's working on a granny square motif coat right now with merino silk yarn. That sounds beautiful. All right, I don't see any other questions, so thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed Baby Bjorn, all the demonstrations I did on the board, seeing the two versions of the shawl that I've made so far, and chatting with me and everyone else. Oh, looks like we have one more question. Do I have the multicolored sample on Instagram? I have not shared photos of either of these on Instagram or anywhere else yet, but I will be soon. I'll be sharing photos on social media soon. Anyway, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes with me. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.